for your kind attention this morning. This group of students has been working diligently all year on some school climate initiatives. We thought it was important that they update you about the work that they've been doing in the community, actually across state lines, and their involvement with the National Climate Center as well. So they're going to talk about what they've been doing, talk about the climate standards. Climate, I think, is something we should be proud of here at Westbrook High School, but we can always look to improve. And we're going to be talking about some survey results from last year, and that will lead us into our participation in the survey within the coming month. So I'd like to thank them ahead of time for all the work they've done. Please give them all of your kind attention. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Bialicki and our team leadership group. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, we're here to talk about school climate with you, and it all came about last year. Last year I was approached by Superintendent Chacon and Mr. Hale, and they talked to me about a school climate survey that we were going to be doing in the spring, and I had no idea what that was at the time. And there needed to be some involvement within the community, and that's where students came in. And we need to get some students to go out into the community, so I immediately offered, because I love doing that with TL a lot. So what we did is we said yes, and we had no idea about the amount of time that it was going to entail, because the students up here put in probably close to 500 hours each in the past 13 months. That was a lot of time, but I don't take time to get apart. But the real reason why we're up here on stage today is because about 2 months ago, Mr. Melkar came up to me, and he said, can your group do something on school climate for the school, like an activity, a 20-minute activity for the mentor groups, because Mr. Melkar chairs the mentor group committee. So we said, yeah, no problem, we can do that. And we put together a little task for you guys to do mentor groups, and we realized 15 minutes in a mentor group just didn't do justice to everything that we've been talking about with school climate. So we said, let's bring the students in and faculty for 15 minutes, then go to mentor groups and work on an activity. Then we started putting together a presentation and realized that that wasn't going to work either. 15 minutes just wasn't enough to talk to you. So we decided that we had to come to you for about 45 minutes and give you a good idea of what happened over the year. And we're going to tell a story to you. And in order to begin the story, I'm going to turn it over to Lauren.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so Caroline, Andy, and I got into this sort of by accident. We were in a study hall last year, and Mr. B approached us and asked if we wanted to be a part of the climate survey. And we weren't really sure what that was, as I'm sure a lot of you probably aren't. But we agreed to do it, and it took a lot more time than we thought it would, but we put in a lot of hard work, and this is what we have.
So we had absolutely no idea what school climate even was, and we started to, think, is it like the atmosphere in our school or something like that? And then we learned that it's basically about having like a supportive environment where we can all learn and grow positively. And we already think that we have that here and we take pride in that, but we also wanted to kind of figure out what the perceptions were of like how our school climate really is from outside parties. So we worked closely with the National School Climate Center, which is actually an association out of Manhattan, New York. And they kind of put together assemblies across the country to educate people about school climate. So we've worked closely with them for the past year.
Alright, so the question in all your minds right now is probably, what is school climate? And no, it's not if it's like snowing in the cafeteria. But it's the relationship you have among each other and how you feel in school.
And the main part is just students being able to feel comfortable in their own school and being able to learn and develop.
We also want to recognize all of our strengths and weaknesses and improve upon them, whatever that may be.
Basically, what we did has never been done before. The National School Climate Center had only focused on asking students, parents, and school personnel what they were considering to be part of our school climate, and they never delved into the community aspect of things. So we helped develop a survey, and we went out to the community and we interviewed 14 sectors of the community, including civic leisure activities, businesses, elected officials, public agencies like the library. We gave them a survey, took the data back, entered it to the computer, and then we shared more results today.
The first step we took in approaching the community was about a year ago in May at the Memorial Day Parade. We figured that there'd be a range of people that we could ask to take the survey, so we went around to people at random and asked them to give their opinion of our school. A lot of them weren't sure what climate is, and us being new at this project too, we just did our best to explain the questions.
Hello, Mr. Foster. How are you today?
Good, thanks. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. My name is Bryce. This is Sarah, Eric, Lauren, Annie, and Caroline.
Hey, guys. Hey.
We represent the National School Climate Center. We are representatives. We are the committee. First school in the nation to adopt the morals and values of this program.
Interesting.
So we wanted to gauge the community's perception of our school climate, which is basically our relationships within the school. And we wanted to gauge this with different sectors of the community. So one of them is business-based, and seeing as you own a business, we were wondering if you and some of your employees would be willing to fill out surveys.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
That sounds good.
Okay, so in the survey, there's questions asking you about your knowledge of our school. And if you don't know, feel free to circle the I don't know choice. But we just want to know how you feel about our school. On the last page, there's a section that we ask you to fill out that tells us what sector from the community that you are in, so we know that we're touching on all the different sectors.
In the personal information category, this is the most important part to fill out.
Okay.
All the other personal information you do not have to fill out if you do not feel like. There is a place for you to put down an email address or a phone number if you'd like to be contacted again with the results of the survey.
Okay.
If you do want to be contacted, here's our business card.
Okay. Very good. Now, what's the exact purpose of this? What are you trying to accomplish with this?
So school climate focuses on the safety, relationships, teaching and learning, the environment of the school. So what we're asking you to do is tell us what your perception of our climate is so that we can improve and better communicate with the community as a whole of what we do and who we are and what we need to improve if there are things that you think we are lacking in.
Okay, so you're reaching out to see what the students do in the area of the town and the people within the town that the school is in?
Yeah, and also like what you think, how you think we're doing basically.
We're going to
Okay.
send all of our results from the surveys to the National School Climate Center in Manhattan, New York, and they're going to give us our results back, and we could really focus on the areas that need to be improved upon.
Okay, very good, because I know you guys are in for project graduation every year. Certain things like that.
Yeah.
So it's similar to that, what you're doing in the community and how you're helping the community out? Okay.
Yeah, this is basically so that other members of the community, because if you're not spending a lot of time in the education system, people might not necessarily know what projects we're taking on within the school or how our learning environment is, whether or not they think there's bullying going on or different things like that, or how safe our school is. And this is just your opinion from a totally, whatever your perspective is, and we'll kind of look at that, and if there's areas we need to improve, we'll kind of try and better educate the community about how our environment really is.
Okay. Wow.
So how many employees do you have?
Approximately 30.
30. So would you say, what's a good number of surveys we could give you, like 10-ish?
Yeah, that'd be fine. A lot of my employees don't live in town.
Okay.
So I do have employees that live in town, and some of their kids have been through the school system. So why don't you leave me 10, and I can see and hand out to the folks that live in Westbrook. That's where we got to concentrate, right?
Perfect. And there's a phone number on our business card, so you could just call that when you're ready, and we'll come pick them up for you.
Okay, great.
And like you were saying, some of your employees don't live in Westbrook. This is all perception based. So even if they don't live in Westbrook, but may have heard things about it, they can still fill it out if they wanted to, or if they wanted to participate.
All right, fair enough.
So set a date for pickup maybe, like about a week, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. That shouldn't be a problem. Next week would be great. When do you get all your results back?
In the next few months.
Okay.
We have to still survey a lot of parts of the community.
Oh, okay, so you're just starting out?
Yep.
Oh, great.
We send them all into New York, and after we send in all 14 categories,
Sectors, yeah.
sectors, categories of businesses, and parts of the community, they meticulously analyze it, and we get
Feedback report.
Yes.
Yeah.
Feedback and whatnot.
And a report, and then from that report, we'll figure out what we need to change.
Now, how did you guys get involved in this project?
Our teacher, our lovely teacher, Mr. B.
Interest in the subject.
Also,
it
it
has
has-
aptitude for a better school community.
Yeah.
Very good. Good for you guys. Like to see you doing something like this.
Thank you.
And thank you for meeting with us.
Yeah,
All right, you're welcome. Have a good day.
Now, I'm putting this together. We were going to cut this back. In fact, there was a vote on it, whether or not we should cut it back halfway, but we didn't want to do that because this is what the students did 37 times. They went out 37 times to different individuals in the community, and they had to talk about the community survey. And if you saw Dave in the film, Dave Foster, he was thinking that the outreach from the school is basically asking for donations. And we're trying to engage the community not to just think about donating money for things, but we really needed that input as far as school climate. So this was new to the community as well. So now we became very intrigued about the results and what the results, or what the entire survey was actually measuring. So we came across from the National School Climate Center the 13 dimensions of school climate safety or survey. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through it now with you.
All right, now the first key dimension of school climate is safety. This includes being physically safe and emotionally safe. Physically safe is kind of obvious what that is. And emotionally safe is being able to express yourself in any manner you see fit. Not worry about being ridiculed or anything like that.
Here's one you might not think about. It's being intellectually safe. And that's just students in a classroom environment being able to achieve their best. And that's just what the American dream is, right? That's what the American dream is. Isn't that right, Mr. Albrecht? It's about being able to achieve your best. The other one is rules and norms. It's just what we follow in the school handbook every day.
The second key dimension is teaching and learning. One aspect of that is support for learning, which is basically from the teacher's side. It means that the teachers are encouraging, they support the students in there, and they allow them to be independent thinkers in the classroom.
The next is social and civic learning. This is more for everyone with listening skills, self-reflection, and empathy. A lot of this stuff we do in teen leadership. I know a lot of you have taken it.
We talked about safety and teaching and learning, and now we're going to talk about interpersonal relationships and institutional environment, which we really feel to be the core representation of what school climate is.
So as Sarah said, interpersonal relationships are really the most important, because if you don't have positive relationships from the beginning, you're not going to have a positive atmosphere either. So that all starts with respecting differences and diversity. And then from there, there's different interactions. And the general one that we usually think of is that teacher-to-student interaction. But there's also the interactions between students that need to be positive. And then the most underrepresented of those is the relationships between adults, because if the staff aren't working cooperatively together, then that's going to transpire down to the students as well, and it's just going to create a negative environment.
The next key dimension is institutional environment. The first aspect of this is school connectedness and engagement. And this is basically, are you a part of like the art club or the drama department, a sports team? Do you have some place to go in the school that you can feel that you can be a part of the school and an environment?
Being the physical surroundings is the physical surroundings inside and outside of the school, and this actually plays a big part in the learning process for students. Also, we're talking about the resources and materials that can be found inside every classroom.
Next is social media. Social media is being safe from physical harm or verbal abuse on the internet, which is really prevalent now with all the social media sites.
This originally wasn't part of the dimensions, but it became the 13th when the National School Climate Center recognized how much of an impact it has on the school environment. One thing interesting about this is that because social media has become so prevalent in today's society, that the police are allowing the principals to become first responders on anything that has to do with an altercation on Twitter or Facebook or any social media like that. So if you are going to get into a fight or something like that, the principal is allowed to take the action that the police would take.
And that's also really relevant today, especially in our school, because we've had things like indirects that turn into, direct altercations the next day at school. So that's something that you guys want to keep in mind as well, because all of that kind of avoiding that contributes to a positive school climate. And then the last dimension is staff only, and the first part of that is leadership, because usually when we think of leadership, we think of student leaders, but the staff are also leaders as well, and that kind of starts with the administration, because Mr. Hale, he kind of contributes to this, we have a very unique culture, and he contributes to that and kind of brings that throughout day to day, and it trickles down to us as well, and we carry through that culture also.
It's also important that the staff works together as a unit and really works together and learns together.
So while we're learning through the process and we get an idea of what the standards are, Superintendent Chacon called us up and said she had a unique opportunity, and that opportunity was to attend the state leadership conference that is put together by the Connecticut Association of Schools. It was an overnight stay, November 22nd, 23rd, and she said you'll have some opportunity during the conference to talk about school climate. Well, there were over 300 students there at the time, and I'm going to let Lauren give us some details about that story.
Okay, so when we agreed to go to this, we thought we were going to be talking to groups of about 20 kids each and talking about school climate, but when we got there, they actually told us that we were going to be presenting to everyone the next morning, all 300 people, and that was a surprise to us, so we had to go back to our hotel at like 11 at night and prepare an entire presentation, and we got up at like 6 in the morning and we had to rehearse it, but it went really well in the end.
Now, I think she's being a little modest here, because it was really a tough task. There were 300 students dancing and having a great time. It was evening time, around 10 o'clock when I got the word of this, and I went and told them that, and we actually had to pull Eric off the dance floor. He was like a rampant dancer. It was incredible. And we get back to the hotel room, and they're starting, and they're rehearsing, and they're practicing, and they're going through everything, and around 6 in the morning we gathered and practiced, and they really pulled it off. They did a great job. So we learned about the standards, we went out to the community, we did a presentation, but now we want to hear about those community results, because we were talking to the community the whole time, so we're going to give you a little idea of the responses from the community.
Okay, so this is the first graph, and this is really unique because in the past we've all taken surveys, but usually the students, let alone the staff, none of us get to really look at the results up close. So this is the first one from the community, and below you can see all of the different aspects of school climate that we just went over, and this is the perception of the community and how they scored us. So they scored us most positively on having clear rules and norms, which we tend to agree with. Those are pretty well defined and we follow them fairly well. But they scored us least positively on leadership ability and also social and civic learning. So we might not necessarily agree with that, but that's just how they perceive, our strengths and weaknesses.
And when we talk about leadership, it's both student leadership and staff leadership.
Now this graph right here shows the results of schools all over the country and schools in Westbrook. Blue being our school district, Westbrook, and yellow being schools all over the country. Our results in Westbrook may have been a little skewed because when we told the people to take the survey, or asked the people to take the survey, we told them it was perception based. So if they didn't really know much about Westbrook, they could just base their answers off of public schools all over the country.
Another piece of the survey was asking the community how responsible they felt for our school, and 76% of people said they did feel responsibility toward us, and only 13% said that they didn't, and 13 is a pretty good amount compared to the 76. But this is really important for a public school because there's a budget vote every year, so it's important to us that they do feel responsible for our school.
And this is how the community feels about students utilizing class time to go out into the community for separate projects. And as you see, only 4% of the community members are against this. So it just goes to show that going out into the community is a necessity for students, because after high school, we have college, and after college, we have to be able to make these kind of relationships and projects that can help us for our future lives.
The last ending of the survey, there was a question that asked the community members how interested they would be in assisting us with improvement efforts, and without really knowing the extent of how involved they would have to be, many people thought that they would have to give us money if they wanted to be involved with this, and without even knowing the extent to which they would have to be involved, they were hesitant, but 60% still said that they would be interested in being involved.
So just when we're feeling pretty calm about things and we're relaxing, we get an email from the National School Climate Center, and they said, can you Skype us tomorrow? We have something we want to talk to you about. So we did, and in that Skype, they asked us if we would come to Manhattan, and they wanted to videotape the students, which eventually would be placed on YouTube for other students across the country to be able to learn from when they go out into their communities with the survey from the National School Climate Center. So we prepared for that. We went to New York, and we put together a little video clip. A lot of what we did in New York was what you saw over at Wilcox with Dave Foster. So basically, we cut out some of the words, and we put together a little bit of fun just so you could get an idea of what it was like in that room for us. And also, at the very beginning, you're going to see the students when they're coming home on the train around midnight, and they're really tired. And then afterwards, we get into the New York trip. Okay, tell me something about your day.
I don't like you.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. How are you, Annie?
I'm calling my mom.
We've been pretty hyper.
And Lauren? Is there anything you'd like to say? I assure you, it really didn't go that quickly. We were there for 4 hours while the other students who were enjoying themselves around Manhattan who went on this trip. So we get back, and now we want to learn about the results from the students, the parents, and the teachers. So we're going to take some time just to give you an idea of what the survey results were from you, because 240 you took that survey, so last spring. So we're going to hear some of the results from all three groups.
So this is how many people actually took the survey last spring. We're going to focus mostly on the high school, though. It does show that only 41 parents took the survey, but that's still 41 parents' perception of the schools that their kids go to. And it was based off of 1, strongly disagree, 5, strongly agree for all the graphs and all the data that we collected.
So this first graph is just the parent scores, and up above you can see that our 2 lowest weaknesses, it was rated social and civic learning again, as well as in the community, and also a sense of social and emotional security. And all that means is basically you feel like you can go to school and not have to take any risks by showing up every day. So again, this was the parents' perception, and it kind of closely related to the community's perception as well.
We also want to recognize the categories that we were scored high in, which were social support and sense of physical security, and that just means that parents feel that their students have ways and means to get involved with the school.
Next to school personnel, and 42 people took this, which is the majority of the staff. The 2 lowest, once again, are social and civic learning, as well as social and emotional security, and that's pretty much the lowest throughout all of our graphs.
Our strengths in this one were sense of respect for diversity and social support for adults. The school personnel views us as being very respectful for diversity. And also the social support for adults is the adults to the students, so they see that we have a caring and supportive environment for our students to learn in.
To reiterate what Lauren said, we also thought that the social and civic learning and the sense of social emotional security were the two lowest dimensions, or the weakest dimensions in our school district. So that just goes to show that's something we really need to work on as a school and as a Westbrook community.
And social support for students is just how we react with each other. And since we have such a small school, it's really easy to connect with each other and to welcome new students. Also, a sense of physical security is very important to every school.
This chart just compares the graphs that you just saw. Yellow are the lower scores and the blue are the higher scores. The students overall had the lowest scores and the school personnel were with the higher scores. And then the parents were in the middle, and we thought this is because they have input from both parties, both the students and the staff, so they're kind of a middle ground.
And also across the board, for yellow being a weakness, it was the social and civic learning and social and emotional security. So we recognize from that we really need to properly define those terms and also find a way that we can improve those in the future.
One weakness we had was social emotional security. And that could easily just be a bottom 10% of the school that isn't doing as well maybe. So that's just something we definitely have to work on. Also, it's the physical surroundings of the school, which was especially mentioned by the students in their survey.
And as a school community, we felt that our strengths were our rules and norms, and we felt that our rules and norms were clearly defined, and there's really no room for interpretation. We also felt that our physical security was very strong, so we can come to school every day feeling safe and, not worry about getting hurt.
So that's really a synopsis, of the results from all you guys and your parents and the teachers. And then around January, Superintendent Chacon called us again, and she said, "We have another unique opportunity. There is a statewide middle school conference, which is going to be held in West Hartford at the Mandel Jewish Community Center in combination with the Connecticut Association of Schools and Connecticut Department of Education." And she said, "Would your team be interested in going and videotaping the event? Not just for videotaping, but to be able to have firsthand knowledge of what the middle schoolers were reporting, over 300 middle schools from across the state of Connecticut, reporting about their districts, so we can take that information back and utilize in some of our future endeavors, because we plan on putting on some assemblies for middle schoolers as well." So I'm going to ask Sarah and Caroline to talk a little bit about that event back in January.
So the keynote speaker at the conference was Rosalind Wiseman. She's the author of a best-selling book, Queen Bees and Wannabes. Soon after she published the book, Tina Fey called her and asked her if she could make her book into a movie, and that movie is what you guys know as Mean Girls.
So at the conference, Rosalind spoke about two really powerful topics. She talked about subliminal messaging through the media, and we had two really important messages that we took from her speech that we thought we could bring back to you guys. So the first one kind of relates to girls, and she was talking about how as girls we kind of have a flood of messages coming at us from the media telling us that we have to act sexy and have confidence, but also maybe pretend we're not as smart as we actually are, and none of those are positive for our body image. And she also talked about issues with conformity and body image as well, and she brought up these Monster High dolls. They're kind of like Barbie dolls. Some of you guys may have seen them. So first of all, their calves are the size of their thighs, so that's not healthy. And they all kind of have the same body shape, so it's not really showing that beauty isn't a size. It's bringing a really negative image about body issues. And at the same time, they're all supposed to be ethnically different, but the African American doll, she told us that it's no accident that this one doesn't have a darker skin tone. And at the same time, these two are supposed to be Latina and Asian, but they don't bother to define which is which. And she also said it's no accident that the most popular one is the one with the boyfriend. So she said that the most shocking thing about this is that it's not even, it's not even marketed towards middle school age. It's marketed towards 5-year-olds. So if we're having that message that young, that's not healthy. And at the same time, for guys, sorry. She said with Batman and Superman, when guys are like the age of 5, everybody wants to be, Batman and Superman. And 20 years ago, these costumes didn't have like built-in six-packs or anything like that. And I saw like Francis come in and he has like the Batman shirt with the built-in six-pack. So that sends a really like negative. That sends a really negative body image to guys as well. Like if you're aspiring to be like this isn't always the healthiest option. And at the same time, Batman and Superman, no matter what happens to them, they always kind of have this really stoic look on. Like they never break, they never show emotion. And as guys get older with video games like Assassin's Creed or Halo, the characters never show emotion either, even if they're like dying or hurt or anything like that. And that kind of transmits this message also that asking for help and showing emotion and breaking is a weakness, but in actuality, asking for help is a skill. So we thought that was really important too. And she explained to girls that this could be a reason why guys act different in front of their friends. But then when they're just with a girl or like texting them or something like that, they really tend to show emotion then. So both really relevant for high school age.
All the students who attended the conference were required to read the book that you see in the top right corner called Wonder. It's about a young boy named Aggie who has severe facial deformity. And so he has trouble adjusting to his new public school. So after the speaker, we all broke out into separate breakout rooms where we talked about the book in a fishbowl format, which is that 11 students are circled on the inside and they can participate in the discussion, while the rest are circled on the outside, and every student has the opportunity to discuss the book and the questions that are asked by the facilitators. You can see in the top picture there in the green room, Superintendent Chacon is leading that discussion. And on the bottom, we have Dr. Joanne Friedberg, who is from the State Department of Education, leading the bottom one.
And you see here, these cameras that we used are rented, or borrowed actually, from the Valley Shore Community TV. Each one was $6,000. And we were able to use them and film the entire conference.
And these are the middle schoolers that were from Westbrook, and that's Caroline interviewing some students with the camera that we have.
Now, on the surface, that might have seemed easy to go and do, but the most difficult thing for everyone was to get here at 5 o'clock in the morning, particularly Lauren.
She's never on time.
But she did it. So what we want to do is we want to spend a little time going back on the weaknesses. And we just want to show you what the weaknesses in the survey that was generated from everyone, what that really means in the school environment.
All right, now this is the social and civic learning dimension, which we, as a school community, rated the weakest out of anything. And it's basically when we learn ways to control our emotions.
We learn ways to resolve disagreements so that everyone can be satisfied with the outcome.
We learn how our actions affect each other.
We discuss issues that promote growth about how to be a good person.
We learn skills to help plan our time effectively.
We learn to talk about the importance of understanding our feelings and the feelings of others.
We work on our listening skills.
We learn on how to work well with difficult people.
The second weakest was social emotional security. This means that we do not go out of our way to treat each other badly.
We don't insult or harass each other.
We don't make fun of each other.
We're always sensitive to the feelings of others.
And we try to stop it if we see other people insulting each other.
We don't exclude others or make them feel bad for being part of a group.
And we always treat others the way we want to be treated.
So our goal for the next few months is to work as closely as we can with the community and get their perception of what we can do to help them and what they can do to help us. So when we went out to some of the sectors and talked to them, these were some of their ideas. When we went and visited the Senior Citizen Center, they thought that would be a good idea to maybe come to a basketball game free of charge or opening night for a play, just so that they can get into our school and see what we're doing. Another idea was from Mr. Daniels at the library. He thought that it would be a good idea to get people in the library and use that as a resource. So have more projects that focus you to go into the library. Like we know Ms. Zacco has the author project that forces us to go in there. And then the last idea from the community, a lot of people in the community actually said that they'd like to use our facility as a place to go for an event. So
So also, we want to continue working with the National School Climate Center to kind of create a guide for what we've been doing in the past year and give it to other schools across the state and maybe even the country, because we were the first to do this and we're proud of that, so we want other people to be able to do this also within their own district. And we also want to continue working with CAS, Connecticut Association of Schools, because they plan statewide conferences, so we want to be able to implement workshops for other schools too to learn how to do this. Also, we want to plan like a watered down version of this presentation for the middle and elementary school, so the students are predisposed to this before they get to high school. And then lastly, we want to talk to you guys and see if any of you want to join our efforts.
And our district has its very own school climate policy. But in addition to that, as we said before, we are the first school to adopt the National School Climate Center standards. And as Sarah said before, we're talking about the next steps we want to do for Westbrook. But in addition, we want to talk about the next steps that we can do for other schools in the state and across the country to possibly develop the same NSCC standards. In addition to that, we are going to talk to state legislators about the possibility of making this a part of every school.
So it's hard to imagine 500 hours of individual time went into all this, but as you can imagine, every single event needed planning, it needed discussion, it needed all kinds of input, from many different sources before we can go ahead and move into our next phase. But we told the story, and it's not our story. It's a story of many people who are involved, but right here we have 325 stories. There's about 325 of you strong with staff and faculty and students right now in this auditorium. And every one of you have a story. Every one of you can get up here and talk about your involvement in clubs, in groups, your individual achievement, the classrooms, your teaching. Every single one of you have contributed to school climate in Westbrook High School. So you are the book. We are the book inside this auditorium. And just imagine if we looked at that weakness, just that one area of weakness of feeling secure, that emotional security, and even though it's only talking about a small percentage of people who took this, or a small percentage of people who feel this way, just imagine if 325 of us left this auditorium today and we made a change, one little change to reach out to someone, and not even changing a bad behavior, but just changing to reach out to someone as you walk down the hallway. What a difference that could make in that one area. Now, we're going to be doing another survey this spring, and it was really good that we did it. We expressed this to you now, so you get a good flavor for what this survey really is all about. Our intention today really was for you to be able to come here and to listen to us and to leave the auditorium having some sense of maybe school climate globally, or maybe getting an idea of what the survey results were or what we're doing, or maybe just both the state and the local areas and all the endeavors that you saw happening that we've been involved in.
Thank you, Mr. B. We just wanted to tell you guys that we know it's a lot of like PowerPoints and graphs and charts, and some of it's pretty dry, but we do have fun, and we got really close, and here's a video of us doing something weird.
Okay, this is our Westbrook High School team, National School Climate Center, and they're going to do a little warm-up exercise here, just to show you how they get pumped up before they go out into the community.
Give me one. Give me one. Give me two. Give me three. Break down now.
That was so good.
And this is our Grammy selfie from New York. So like Lauren said, we have a lot of fun together. We got really close as a group, but sadly these 3 seniors are leaving next year. So if any of you are interested in helping out these efforts, or interested in the school climate that we talked about, you can come talk to us at any time. And there's also a few people that we wanted to thank today. Thank you, Superintendent Chacon, for all the opportunities and support you've given us throughout the last year. Thank you, Dr. Joanne Friedberg, for keeping in such close contact and working so closely with us. Thank you, Mr. Hale and Ms. G, for helping us through the process, and John and Serena for helping us with the presentation today. And really thank you, Mr. B, for all the help and all the support you've given us. It's been...
And for motivating us.
Motivating us.
So let's thank everyone.
Let's have a round of applause for everyone.
And thanks for listening.
I'm really an emotional guy, you know, but every single time we got together, for some strange reason, Annie and Lauren would go up on a whiteboard in room 203, and they would draw a picture of a fruit. And I'm saying, what the heck are you drawing pictures of fruit for? We're looking to practice. And they said, Mr. Bialicki, this is our mascot. So today I am formally giving them their mascot for the school climate activities within our within our group. You can have that stuffed, okay?
Yes! Thank you!
But we really do appreciate your attention in this, and let's go off and make some major changes.
Thank you, everyone.